If you're looking to own real estate or moving within our beautiful state of Arizona, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Iconic Estates, presented by Russ Lyon, Sotheby's International Realty, a podcast for those who love to live in luxury in the pristine desert. I'm your host, Renee Dee, publisher of Iconic Life magazine, and I'll be with you every month for the show. On the pod today, I've got KT Tamm, an iconic interior designer in Arizona, who talks with us about the joy of entertaining and how to design your home to make it the perfect showplace for entertaining guests. Mike Balzotti, senior executive at Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty, talks to us about the numbers and the trends behind real estate. He makes it his daily pursuit to understand what's going to happen next and shares that with us on the pod today. And finally, Joyce Lynch, Senior Global Real Estate Advisor with Russ Lyon Sotheby's International Realty, talks to us about her love for real estate, working with the design community, the builders, the architects, and the designers, and what it takes to design a beautiful dream home. So let's get started. Well, welcome, KT, to the podcast. Super glad to have you here today.
I am thrilled to be here with you.
It's fun to have you here. So what a lot of our viewers don't know is that you have been in interior design for a number of decades here in the Valley.
Yes.
You also live in an architecturally important home that is fascinating. I had a nice little treat of getting to see it.
Yes, in preparation for the holidays with all kinds of things scattered everywhere, messy kitchen, but a table set for the holiday.
A table set for the holidays.
Yep, I had that much done. And then we took a little stroll to the outside, which for me as a designer, but as a hostess, more importantly, and as sort of the hierarchy, the matriarch who leads the way for holiday sharing and giving and celebrating. We like to do a little bit inside and outside, and our home allows us to do that, which is amazing when you think about how old the house is, built back in 1959, and how the vision of that time to take in the surroundings of the desert, of Camelback Mountain, which you certainly saw.
Spectacular view.
Yep. And so that every time we've made an adjustment to a little bit of adjustment to the architecture of the house, we've always kept that in mind, the inside, outside, and how we love that. So when we added on the pavilion and redid the pool, we knew our children at that time were fairly young, mid-teens, and that they still like bringing people over to hang out. Yeah. We love to entertain for the holidays and any other day of the week that we can do that. So it's really important to have those kind of experiences, right?
Yep. It's really set up perfectly for that. And what we want to talk about today is exactly that. So your perspective as an interior designer who has certainly worked on your beautiful home and the homes of so many people, how do you help your clients think about how to design their home for entertaining?
Oh, well, actually, that question from me comes up pretty early in the planning of a home, whether it's a new construction or a remodel, or even somebody who asks, we're looking at a property, would you come along with us and give us your feedback? So entertaining for a lot of people is part of their life experience. I've got friends who entertain all the time. They entertain very simply. We recently redid their kitchen so that they could expand on that concept, because that gave them a lot of joy, and they love sharing their home and their ability to share themselves every day of the week. I kind of feel the same way. I don't have as much time as they do right now, but the holidays especially, and I like to point that out to clients about. So when the holidays happen, tell me how do you prepare the meals? How many people do you have? Let's take a look at, how we're setting up the design of the house, the flow of the house. Do you have the opportunity to have easy access from a kitchen to an outside patio, whether it's covered or not covered? If it's not covered, so how do you take care of that, particularly if it's going to be maybe an afternoon experience, which for Thanksgiving, a lot of people eat at noon.
And sometimes it's really warm on Thanksgiving.
As it was this
Yeah.
year. Exactly. So, you kind of take a look at all those things. What side of the house are the patio on? North, south, east, west. Kind of take a look at those opportunities or things that you should take into consideration to make it a pleasurable experience. Again, and then the kitchen, of course, if you're really a good cook, sometimes you need all the bells and whistles, and we know people who
Yes.
have that, but also those same people don't really have the biggest, kitchen. I don't have the biggest kitchen. I have a single oven, a microwave convection, a Brayville fryer, and I can easily take care of 20 people or more pretty easily once you learn how to take care of the timing. The other thing about having a condensed kitchen, as I call it, is, you're not meandering around and wasting a lot of steps. I also, in planning, like for my kitchen, made sure that I had at least a big enough island. I have an L-shaped island that I can just spread things out. So even though I don't have a lot on the perimeter because it's all tall storage, I find that I can work on one end of the island, prep on the other side, and somebody can be sitting at the end where the stools are, and we can be chit-chatting back and forth. I think that's a great day when you can do that.
And that's a great design too. Well, I love that as people are looking at homes, they're asking for your advice in advance. Is this home going to work? It's interesting what you just said about number of steps. So I just moved into a new place and had my first holiday in a new place. And the space between the island and the Sub-Zero is a narrow little walkway.
Yep.
And what I learned last week is everybody wants to be in that space.
Yep.
Everybody wants to be right there.
Yep.
And the door opens wide enough that it just kind of comes to the island. It's a really awkward kind of thing. And so obviously I didn't design this, and I didn't have a chance to have you design it. But it's interesting how when you live in a space too, then you start figuring out like what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
So from that, then you want to obviously design a house that's working.
Correct.
Yeah.
If I had a few more inches to avoid what I call the cheek-to-cheek experience,
Yeah.
I would. But I've learned to adapt simply
Right.
because that's what the space had to offer,
Yeah.
to make the most of it. Somebody else who's got a property, a residence that maybe has the opportunity to have a separate butler pantry or a walk-in pantry. I mean, those are wonderful amenities, particularly if you have really large gatherings, big family, 25, 30, and those days do happen.
Yes.
People come from hither and yonder to come to Arizona this time of the year, holiday or no holiday. So those kind of spaces are just invaluable. Or how do I take another space that's maybe not defined or specific as a butler pantry and use it as a fallback just for that particular day?
Right.
It might be a little niche on like the end of my kitchen on the far side, which is what I do, is I open up my table, my kitchen table expands, and that becomes part of a serving area where I can set up extra dishes, I can put big chafing dishes. I have big open windows, which brings in a lot of light. So it's kind of taking advantage of the other side of the kitchen, a butler pantry, a walk-in pantry. And then, of course, there's the dining area.
Well, so this real quick before we go to that. So that makes me think of a couple things. So one, you're talking about designing a house so that it's got multiple purposes.
Yes.
On a normal day, that's your kitchen table,
Yep.
and you can grab a bite to eat or
Yep.
a cup of coffee there.
Yep.
But when you're entertaining, you've designed your home such that that space morphs into an extended entertaining space, which I love that because you don't need that entertaining service area all the time.
No.
You just need it some of the time.
Some of the time.
And then with some of your really high-end clients too, just kind of staying in the kitchen here for a minute, I feel like the kitchen remains the hearth of the home.
Always.
And you have everybody still there. Have you been noticing this trend of dirty kitchens where there's kitchens behind kitchens in some of these larger homes?
Oh, yes. In fact, we have a project right now in the East Valley, and it's exactly that. So the client has a decent sized kitchen, but then behind the cooktop oven wall, you just walk around the corner, and back there is a huge pantry, additional ovens, a microwave, a large cleanup sink, 1.5 dishwashers. So everything.
Yeah.
So they have in the main kitchen, their dining area is runs parallel to the islands. So the islands are good size. So every day they can set up, breakfast, lunch, whatever, or just for themselves, dinner, quick, easy dinner. But then when the family comes over and also friends come over, they just go over to the dining area. But then her main kitchen remains clean, except for, a few designated pots and pans that you like to display.
Yeah.
And, might have a big pot of chili or something going on right now. But then behind it, the wall, and easy to get to if you need to grab something, is all where all the action takes place.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting trend. Really interesting trend.
Really
that there's
interesting.
that there's multiple kitchens, and certainly it's because kitchens have also become such beautiful showplaces.
Oh, for sure.
You think about how gorgeous kitchens are today. That's kind of a big showcase moment in a house.
It's a
right?
big showcase moment every aspect, every detail that goes into the kitchen. Let's talk about it. It's cabinets, it's appliances. Appliances, my God, they make, even though they're hidden, they make such a big splash when people find out, all these little contraptions that you have.
Yeah.
The sink now, they're masterpieces. Multiple faucets. Even a little bar that might be adjacent to it. So again, you're easy to serve beverages, wine, whatever, at a sidebar, but yet you're just a step away from the main kitchen area. So you can multitask, be the hostess with ease, and all your guests really appreciate that because everyone is a part of the action.
Yeah. And I feel like the finishes in the kitchens are becoming more high end too. We're seeing, the stone just gets more beautiful and more beautiful. And yes,
the stone gets more beautiful, but we still have lots of the homeowners want beauty, but they also want endurance.
Yeah.
They don't want to be a slave to it. So we're seeing a lot of use of quartzite, porcelain, some quartz products. We're seeing a lot of those. And they're all, quartzites, quartz, and porcelain, they're all really warriors of the kitchen.
I love how you use that word, warriors of the kitchen.
Well, they are because, in a way, you have to think of all the things that you do on it and that somebody else might do on it.
Right. Yeah.
Slice and dice it, grandbabies spilling left and right, your husband who forgets that he can't slice and, has to be careful, but he doesn't, puts anything there, leaves it there. Let's face it, it's life. People want beauty, but they also want practicality.
Right.
Those are two big efforts that as a designer that I want to make sure that I've taken care of for my clients, whether it's for a remodel or new construction. The next is, so then the other finish is the millwork. Right. Millwork, my gosh, it is just, we're using a lot of walnut. We're using woods with combinations of painted finishes that have more of a semi-gloss or high gloss appearance.
Yeah, combinations.
Using them in combinations, and it goes right back into that pantry that I talked to you about. Where do you cut it off? Well, because it's an extension of the kitchen, we just kind of keep it all together, and then any other millwork down that runs along, like I talked about the bar that might be just a little bit down the way, kind of around more of the dining area, maybe towards a continuation of the family living area. That then becomes, we're showing more glass with metal frames. So
right.
It's integrating multiple finishes, kind of all in the same environment.
And also displaying things too. When you're talking about glass, when you have glass cabinets, you've got to be cognizant of what is behind that glass. So you want to put cool looking stuff back there or things that look good in the whole entire room. So it's interesting how the kitchen's become such a huge design space for sure.
A huge design space. And as a designer, you have to be really a good listener. You have to be a really good listener just to kind of pick up on these kind of details. And if they're not expressing them, then you want to ask about them. To say, you entertain a lot, but you haven't shown me what you entertain with.
Yeah.
How many sets do you have? Maybe they don't have many. Maybe they just have one. That's fine. I want to make sure that I, make room for that. Glassware. Oh, we have all different kinds of stems. We have stuff without stems. We have beer glasses. We have Pilsner glasses.
Yeah.
They have it all.
Yep.
And some, interestingly enough, another project that we're working on is she's a great, great cook. They entertain a lot. And we wanted to add some glass with metal frame cabinets on either side of the cooktop hood. And she goes, I love that idea. But she goes, this is where we're going to put our quick tea glasses every day. You know what I mean by quick tea? Yeah. All right. And she says, we don't want to show those behind glass. So then it became, well, what if we do obscure glass or colored glass? In the end, we had to go another direction simply to take care of. These are where the baby cups are going to go for the grandkids. These are where the QT, my husband's, he loves drinking out of them every day. So we're not going to
display those.
We're not going to display those, but So anyway, we took another direction.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point is that you're asking questions. So for people that are selling their homes or for people that are buying homes here in Arizona, if you're selling your home, you want to really make sure that these entertaining spaces are displaying well for people so they can imagine how their life could fit into that.
Exactly. So you probably want to take out the Dixie cups and the
No, that's okay, yeah.
and that. But, clear the tops off, put your best foot forward. And, if this was a house you were looking at, that's how you want to display your house. Put yourself in the eyes of the potential buyer.
Right. Yeah, good point. So we've been talking about kitchen, and then you were starting to talk a little bit about dining spaces, which that's an important consideration when buying a home, right? Or when building a home. Do I even want a dining room? Some people are saying, I don't even want to have that space anymore. Some people are saying, I have to have that space, and I have to have that space for a certain number of people. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing both. So there's the homeowner who loves to entertain, whether for family or friends, but they still like a little bit of tradition and like the formality of a traditional dining area. However, they also like to have that experience of an covered outdoor experience for entertaining. So we finding that if there's more of a traditional dining area, then they also want a good-sized sort of covered patio, sort of an outdoor mini kitchen, a buffet, maybe a fireplace. Again, the same project that I told you about with the Dixie cups. Big entertainers, they entertain more out than they do in. So part of the project was to extend the outside dining area, provide all those accoutrements, as we might say, that would make that experience easy both for the guest and the hosts, because she doesn't want to end up being in a kitchen that's around the corner,
right?
Or 20 feet away. She wants to be able to put things out on that outdoor buffet. Maybe there's a beverage center out there. They can reach for wine, water, whatever. Make sure that table is well protected. If there's a fireplace, more power to it. Kind of adds a little bit more to the ambiance. Then you start thinking about how do we make that outdoor experience year-round experience. Given our very high temperatures in the summer, we're now finding that we're adding doors that retract or stack back so you can close off. We're including cooler systems, fans of all different size. People still use drip system. I'm not a big fan of it, but if they want it, they get it.
Yeah.
Heaters. There are some amazing heaters that you can integrate into a ceiling. That they're not the big bulky things that used to hang down. I think that's really important. Is how you address that outdoor dining area. And then they all
These
want
are good tips, by the way. These are so good. All the things you need to make it so valuable.
So valuable, exactly. And then there's now the extension of the outdoor dining to an outdoor pre or after dinner experience.
Yeah.
So the pre would be sitting around some lovely open pit fireplace for casual seating, a charcuterie board that can balance on the edge of that fireplace, that fire pit. Beautiful, hopefully great sunset would be in the background. Might be some twinkling water from a pool not so far away. And then after dinner, there would be an opportunity to go back to that same open fire pit, and gentlemen could have a cigar, a glass of brandy, a little bubblies to end the evening. That's also what we're seeing.
Yeah, so much outdoor entertaining.
Well, that's what Arizona's all about.
Yeah, and it should be, and that's why you want to have a house out here too. So again, if you're thinking of, if you've got a home that has been really great for you and entertaining, you want to certainly present that to potential buyers. And if you're that person who knows that you just want to entertain a ton, when you're looking for a house, you want to look for all of these things.
All of these things, exactly. Yeah. The other thing I find, as just someone who likes to entertain and have people over, I like to have different experiences. So I've already addressed like the outdoor dining, the traditional dining, the outdoor fire pit. We also have a property where there's an outdoor fire pit, and then there's the gentleman's cigar outdoor fire pit. Also, I like having, like in my house, in the same house, we have an outdoor patio that's on the opposite side of the house. So it's so there again, there's big trees that kind of hang over. So it's an entirely different experience, that you could either use again for pre-party, pre-dinner drinks, after dinner drinks, and then you move over to the other side for, another experience pre or post dinner.
Yeah.
So it's adding diversity, interest in your entertaining efforts, and just trying to want to make your home that you enjoy, bring in your most best friends and relatives to enjoy what you have to offer, meaning mostly yourself. And, that's what entertaining is all about. I'm giving of myself, my family. We're giving, my husband and I. We want you to come in and spend time with us because you mean so much to us.
Yes, and entertaining your home is one of the most it's one of the warmest invitations that you can extend.
Exactly.
Well, as we are right in the middle of holiday time, this is such great ways to think about a home, buying and selling, and thinking about how you design your home. Certainly, if you want help, find an awesome designer who's going to help you think through this.
Well, I think it always pays. That experience, that service always pays for itself at the end of the day. It's another set of eyes to take a look at something maybe you've been staring at, but it hasn't really hit you. And then when they point it out, it's like, oh yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even being able to take a home if you're going to renovate it and see what the possibility is. Well,
exactly. More of that than exactly. It's easier when you get in on a new construction and you just start with some floor plans that come your way, and then you can start, getting to know the client a little bit better, blah, blah, blah. So that does help.
Yeah.
Same rule holds for, larger remodels where you're really playing with more of the property than you're not. But then again, there's the smaller little one, where it's just, we want maybe we're just about redoing a kitchen. That goes into the dining room. How can I now? It hasn't served me well. I want to make sure that I get it right this time.
Yes. Yeah. Always great to pull in an expert. Well, super fun. I'm super blessed that I got to see you entertaining firsthand. And thank you so much for being on the pod today.
Thank you. I loved it.
Well, Mike Balzotti, it is time for some numbers. I love these segments that we get to do together because you are the guy who talks a lot about the trends and what's happening. So as the year is wrapping up, it's the month of December. We have the opportunity to look back at what has happened this year, just kind of take a look at that. But really, in real estate, kind of who cares? We want to know what's coming, what's happening next, what's happening in 2026. That's what really matters.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing, first of all, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And one of the things that this opportunity gives me is a chance to do that look back, because you tend to get really chunked down into the details of what you're doing. And while there are trends, it's always shifting. The sand is always shifting. But the thing is that you do have to have a sense of where you've been, that informs where you are and
Right.
helps then inform where you're going. And so, yeah, trends. I sort of don't like to think of myself as a numbers guy, but I get labeled that all the time. But what really interests me are the trends.
Yes. And you spend a lot of time looking at that. So what did we see in 2025?
Okay, in 2025, we saw a continuation of a trend for the last couple of years, really since interest rates rocketed up from 3 to 7, which has been characterized by the disproportionate increase in inventory relative to demand.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from really low inventory, active listings,
Yep.
to now exceeding or at or about the 30-year norm, which is about 30,000, 25,000 listings in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you kind of have to break it down. But before we get into that, there has been a shift here in the last, change in the trend over the last couple of months, really since mid-year, where we're starting to see less inventory. But demand is still not that strong, but then it depends on where you look.
Well, we're getting ready to move into our high demand months, which I will get to that obviously in a minute. But it's very interesting. I feel like we had such a diminished inventory at the beginning of the year. And the fact that we've kind of gotten back to what feels more like a norm is probably encouraging for a lot of the advisors, and even more encouraging to the important people, which are the people that want to, buy and sell homes here.
Yeah, and it really depends on which side of the equation you're on. It's been a good time for buyers if they're not too interest rate sensitive.
Yes.
That's been kind of the fly in the ointment for them.
Yeah.
Which has been one of the reasons that and a couple of other reasons we can talk about why the higher end, where they're not necessarily immune to interest rates, but can manage it better.
Yes.
The affordability issue isn't quite this.
Well, and it's not going to be an issue if you're a cash buyer.
Yeah.
And we have a huge percentage of cash buyers right now.
It's actually, over half when you get up over 1.5, 2 million. It's over half the transactions are cash. You're right.
Yeah, so that certainly takes the sting out of anything interest rate related. Yeah. But so you've been noticing some trends in Paradise Valley particularly. What are you seeing over there?
Well, it's really the kind of the gold standard for kind of high end, in the sense that specifically it represents the highest price per square foot. And I was just looking at, in anticipation of this meeting, I was looking at, well, what is the average price per square foot? And of course it's price sensitive, but you get into the, over $7 million, $10 million plus. I mean, those are numbers, I must choke on them because we didn't have that kind of a market 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
But now there is, there's 50 or 60 listings over 10 million. And they range, of course, but, $1,200, $1,400 a square foot is pretty common, which is like $1,000 a square foot more than sort of the average for the valley. Yeah,
I remember it was in 2020 that one of the local builders hit a record by having $1,000 per square foot. And everybody said, wow, can't believe that actually happened. And now we can look at some listings that are, way north of that.
Yeah.
Way north of that. So definitely costs. And I think what's happening too is these houses are getting bigger, but they're getting more amenities. They're getting higher quality products too. I mean, in addition to prices going up, there's a real quality boom happening. From my vantage point, that's what I'm seeing. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, because one of the things that I teach is that, when you look at valuation, which advisors are always trying to figure out how to advise people on their valuation, the price of their home. And you've got to be careful, because if you're looking at, say, a 4,000 square foot home in a subdivision, and in the same subdivision there's a 2,000 square foot home, and they're tweaked out about the same amenities, about the same quality of construction, you can't take the price per square foot of the one and apply it to the other, because the smaller the smaller home will have a higher price per square foot because of economy of scale.
Right. Yep.
So that would suggest as you get bigger, the price per square foot would come down. But that contradicts what you just said, which is true.
Yeah.
Which is you get into that rarefied air, and they're even more, like you say, amenities and all the other stuff.
Well, and in that scenario, now I've just skipped over the tracks to super, uber luxury homes. Yeah. So you're seeing, I know from some of the things that we've been talking about, you've been seeing an increase in high net worth buyers coming to the Valley. Yeah. And demanding bigger, better, more beautiful homes. And so that's definitely a trend that we're seeing, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's what is true is that we've always had a in-migration from Californians as being the largest out-of-state sector. But yeah, that high end, I quip that, money's moving to the Valley, and it's very evidence in the residential real estate market.
Yeah. What about the rest of the state? What are you seeing? So, we're talking about the high luxury area, but what's happening for people that are buying? I know, in Scottsdale, the average price, which you've shared on past podcasts, is about $1 million, is kind of an average home price, which is a big number. What are you seeing around the state and around the Valley?
Yeah, it's, again, it's kind of where you look. There's, this might be helpful to sort of insert another factor, which is our 5-year forecast. The reason I'm conflating those two is because when you look at markets like Tucson, what the forecast suggests is that where we're kind of sort of stable right now and maybe a little bit softer in some sectors, they seem to be really steady as you go. Mm. And so for some reason, maybe it's affordability. I'm not sure what all the factors are, but Tucson looks very stable and upward. But then you get to the far north and, far north, you get to areas like Sedona. They're very similar to, say, Scottsdale, $1.5 million. I think our average price in Scottsdale is about 1.5 now, believe it or not, average. So I can't use these numbers. And that's similar to Sedona. But then you get Flagstaff, and it's a little different story. They don't have quite the same luxury sector that we have, though they have, of course. So it really depends on where you look. Both in Sedona and Flag, they do have, like we have here in the Valley, golf course communities. But then Flag, you've got skiing. Sedona, you've got just the tourist attraction and international appeal. Right. So every area has its little idiosyncrasies.
Yeah. We get so many great things in one state. And you've talked about how people like to really move here for lifestyle. They identify their lifestyle. We know people that live up north year-round because they are skiers and hikers, and that's just where their lifestyle lives. So it's interesting how people are moving here for lifestyle for sure. So what are you seeing in the new year? So as it relates, I always want to ask you this question. Is now a good time to buy a home, right? This is the question that's on everybody's mind all the time. And so as we move into 2026, what's your perspective on that?
Hey, if there's a takeaway from this conversation, I think it might be my answer to that question. Yeah. Because if I'm a buyer today looking at, depends on where you look, but say broad brush, somewhat softer prices, some softening, a little bit. Then we've gone through all this amazing appreciation, 30, 40%, how far back you look, but it's been incredible appreciation in the last several years. And so it begs the question, am I making a mistake buying into what may be the top of a market? And then you look at the geopolitical stuff and, there's a lot of sort of angst out there about the future. And whether it's justified or not, that would, from a practitioner's point of view, you're dealing with that. So that 5-year forecast, where that plays, is that what it's projecting, and I'll provide you the charts if you want to use them. What it's projecting is it shows the relative stability, but a little bit of softening. Again, could be good for buyers, especially when you look, and this is the punchline, 24 months ahead, it just takes off again. Begging the question, why?
I asked the question, why? We like that's happening, but why?
So the why has to do with just all the tech and, the AI stuff that's moving here, the high-paying jobs moving here, the stuff that's in construction, that Taiwan facility, and, Intel's expanding. It just sounds like the earth is going to be papered over with tech, and this is a very attractive location. So you're seeing a lot of money coming here, and it sounds like when you when you query AI, that's what they project as the reason, is that a lot of high-paying jobs. That and a continuation of the in-migration.
Yep.
And appeal of the lifestyle, which you said earlier.
Right. And the other thing is you have access to bank grade analytics.
Yes.
So you're not just looking at some of the same trends we're looking at. You're looking at some really proprietary information that's also feeding some of this as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because prognostication, it's nobody has a crystal ball, right? So you can project trends. Even if you can't see the future, you can project trends. But what's cool about the 5-year forecasts is that it's based on, here's an acronym for you, the CBSA, which is Core-Based Statistical Area, which is a government term. Point is that it more broadly looks at employment, demographics, not just trends in housing. And so it's, that tends to buoy up the strength of that projection. Plus, we like to, to say that you have the bragging rights that it's bank grade. What does that mean? Bank grade means that it's what Wall Street uses when they're risk managing. People like hedge funds, people that buy mortgage-backed securities, they care about risk management. And so they're using this 5-year forecast. It is bank grade as a risk management tool. So we're proud of the fact that we've got an exclusive on it.
Yeah. Well, and so it's fun to take a look at those numbers, because those numbers exist to protect the bank from having a problem. So the bank is very serious about understanding the trends and what's ahead. So we get to benefit from that information, which is really helpful. So as it relates to around the valley, what other things do you think you're seeing in 2026? So as it relates to buying, it looks like there's a lot of, exciting news in that area. If you're selling a home, what do you want to be thinking about?
Yeah, again, great question. So my big thing is that if you want the highest price in the shortest amount of time with a lease house.
Competitive pricing.
Competitive positioning, is it? Yeah, that's the game. Because even in a softer market, there's always the cream puffs, there's always the turnkey. And that's actually a good word, turnkey. If it's actually a single word or 2 words, I don't know. But people don't want to do work.
Yeah.
And so the advice to sellers is price accurately. And the irony is that, and the reason for that, we've talked about this before, but just to put a fine point on it, to reinforce it, the reason it works, competitive positioning works, is because buyers know that in any market, the best properties will sell quickly. Always competition for the best.
Right, yeah.
And so it's the early bird gets the worm kind of thing. So when properties are priced correctly, they attract the hovers. Always have to do the air quotes, hovers. And they're going to pay the most because they've lost 1 or 2 and they're aware that it's competition that drives the market, and they're on the hunt.
Yes.
So if you miss them, because they kind of don't come back, right?
Right.
So so that's especially in this market, and looking forward, again, competitive positioning is going to be the ticket to ride for sellers.
Yep. And we have, for those who haven't heard it on past podcasts, the other thing is, for that person that says, oh, well, for the first month, let's just price it super high and let's just see what happens. What you have been training and teaching and sharing with us over and over again is when you lose that first 30 days, you miss a key opportunity, and try to see what you're going to get oftentimes results in not even getting what you were wanting to get. So while it might be counterintuitive, it's really a good idea to just go in at the right price at the right time right away for the best result.
Yeah, and it's so hard for sellers because you can understand, you can empathize with the fact that they don't want to leave any money on the table. It's often the biggest asset they have is their home. And so why not test the market? It just seems intuitively reasonable. And yet, because of that dynamic of the competition that drives, matter of fact, my one-line if you want a definition of residential real estate in one sentence, it would be that it's competition for the next best home in any given market segment that drives the price and shortens the market time. I mean, that's it.
Yep.
Drop the mic. So you miss those hovers and you risk becoming what's called market worn, where people think, well, if it didn't sell right away, got to be something wrong with it, yada, yada. So, we hear
so many advisors talking about the story about the person that didn't want to price, they didn't want to position competitively, and what happens. And so really the idea here is when it comes to pricing your house, There are a lot of experts that you can turn to, and your advisor is in it to win it for you. So you want to really lean on them to get some good advice.
Yeah, you do, because it's a hyper local market. I mean, every specific market segment has its idiosyncrasies, has supply and demand dynamics.
Yeah.
For example, there's accrued inventory, but the new inventory is what you got to be concerned about. So how is that trending in that particular market segment? Those advisors that specialize in those market segments, they know that. They know what styles have the most appeal. They know what maybe needs to be done to the home from a sort of staging point of view.
Yeah.
To give it its top value. So yeah, I've heard this statistic. I don't know if you want to use this or not, but I've heard the statistic that staging companies like to quote, and this is right in your lane, that staged homes get 6-7% higher, which happens to pay for the
staging. Well, that could be a whole other debate that we could have on a podcast. But I think what they're saying though is that people really are not that imaginative, right? And so some people can walk into an unstaged home and absolutely see the vision for what it's going to be. And some people, because they're a different personality and they've got other strengths, can't see the vision. And so that staging helps you figure out, would this house work for me? If somebody doesn't paint a picture, sometimes it's hard to kind of understand some of those dynamics. And I think that's interesting. But as it relates to real estate in 2026, I think we're all kind of sitting on the edge of our seat here again as this year wraps up to watch what's going to happen. And, we get into peak population here in January, February, and March. So it feels like it's going to be a really fun time. So it's a good time to dive in.
Yeah, and what you're making me think of is that, the real challenge that we had as an industry was, of course, COVID. And it was kind of a windfall for us ultimately.
Yeah.
Because people, could commute to Silicon Valley from Paradise Valley, all that stuff, work from home. The open spaces, elbow room, just a more conducive lifestyle, more conducive for a lot of people. So we actually, as an area, really sort of benefited from it. Mm-hmm. Question now is, with all the dynamics going on in this sort of geopolitical, you're just not immune from what's going on nationally, internationally.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that, residential real estate is so fundamental. It's like, food, shelters. And so if you got to have shelter somewhere, I'm thinking that the things that have made us attractive for really the decades now, ever since air conditioning, still play, and maybe play larger now.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. Well, good. Yeah. Well, thank you for that perspective. We will stay in touch as the new year starts to unfold and see what happened next.
Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, Joyce Lynch, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So I had a lot of fun reading about your background. You have been at real estate for quite a while, but you also have a real diversity of background, being in development and in design, in addition to real estate and corporate America. How did you kind of get into the residential side of real estate?
Well, the whole process has been an evolution. So by training, I'm an attorney, and not very exciting, but I was in commercial real estate with a company named First Boston, no longer around. Became part of Credit Suisse, a Swiss company, and now Credit Suisse isn't around. So that was commercial real estate. Always liked it. When I was in New York City, I would frequently buy apartments, renovate them, and sell them. And didn't do it too often because I was working full time, but I always enjoyed it. Added a few touches, sold, and moved on. So that was the beginning. Then my husband and I got married, and we both left First Boston within a few years. At that point, we moved to Arizona. We started developing, my husband really started developing up near Desert Mountain, an area called Carefree Ranch Homesteads. Mm. And at first I wasn't really involved.
Were you still an attorney when you moved to Arizona?
No. I was admitted to New York Bar, New York, Florida, and in Connecticut, but never Arizona, because by the time I got here, I was kind of done with that whole thing.
Yeah.
So when we got to Arizona, my husband started developing up in Carefree Ranch Homesteads, And as he started doing the work, I became more interested. And when one of the home designers decided that she really wasn't into doing the project anymore, I kind of took over. And it was fun. It was fun. I learned about granite. I learned about flooring. I learned about tile colors. It was really, I had a great time. So we kept going on that mode. And then after we did about 8 projects in the Carefree Ranch homesteads in Desert Mountain area, my husband decided he was going to look at properties at Kukio, a private development on the Big Island in Hawaii. So
what a leap to go from Arizona to Hawaii. I mean,
Yes.
it's going to be a flight every time you've got to go look at your project.
It was. But my husband did most of the work, and I got involved when it came to design of the home. We worked with Bing Hu out in Hawaii, and he's a fabulous
Yes.
designer and an architect. So we worked with him, and then I chose all of the finish work here, had it installed in Hawaii, and I wound up doing furniture in the Hawaiian homes as well, because they all needed to be sold with furniture. So, and that was fun. I had a great time doing that. Unlimited budget, sold for massive amounts of money.
It's a great market.
So it really was. It was fun. It was fun at the time. We sold a home to Kelsey and Camille Grammer when they were married, and we sold to. There were a lot of well-known people we sold to. So it was fun.
Yeah, great. I mean, really fun, the diversity that you've had.
Yeah.
So really, design is something that you've enjoyed. So now that you have kind of settled into residential real estate, how is that design bug still showing up for you?
You know what? I like to walk into a home with a client and be able to show them what could be done. I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, and I'm not really a designer, but I have a nice eye, or so I'm told, and I can envision a lot of different things that are happening, that could happen.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
It's helpful. Well, and I think people really need that too, right? So there's, because there are more homes that are getting renovated and things like that, especially in Paradise Valley, one of your key areas, a lot of those homes need kind of a fresh face, right? And so it's nice to have somebody who can help you see it. I actually bought a house 25 years ago in Paradise Valley, and I walked into the house, and my then advisor with real estate said, "Oh gosh, for sure this is going to be your house." I'm like, "Oh, for sure this is my house." And she's like, "What?" Because it was in terrible, terrible shape. She's like, "What do you see?" I said, "Well, I don't see the carpet or the pink walls or any of that. I see what it could be." And so, but not because that's my sort of happy little place too. But not a lot of people can see that. And so it's nice when somebody can show a really beautiful, high quality property, but help people imagine what it could turn into.
Well, it is. It's fun because people want to put their own mark on their home.
Yeah.
And if somebody walks into a home with tan walls, they need to be able to see how bright it would be with white walls.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah. So much can be done.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing in the PV market right now? What do you feel like for your sellers who are listing with you? What are they hoping for, obviously, besides just wanting to sell quickly? And what do you think the buyers are responding to?
Well, I think in Paradise Valley, there's a beautiful market in Paradise Valley. There are some homes that have been redone beautifully. Every home is unique. I have one listed on Ridgeview right now, which is a beautiful Spanish colonial revival home, which is very elegant and very romantic. But it's not for everybody because it still has some of the Cantera, which is not a modern transitional look.
Right.
Some people want the modern transitional. Some prefer the more classic look. So, and it's interesting because there are a lot of young people who prefer the classic, non-updated looks, the more traditional. So it's fun.
So are you noticing with some of your buyers, it feels like we have a lot of modern properties that are in Paradise Valley, gorgeous, gorgeous homes, but that people are starting to say, okay, I've been seeing that a lot and I want to see something else, just to your point about your younger client looking for something classical.
Yes. A lot of people are getting tired of what I call the Lego boxes, of the, big white boxes, beautifully done, very, very nicely designed, but they need warmth, and a lot of people are looking for warmth these days. So a lot of the softer colors are coming back. White is still popular, but white cabinets are not as popular as they used to be. So people prefer a little warmth somehow, as opposed to cold black, gray, and white.
So when people are looking for homes with you, how do you, when they look at a house and say, okay, this could be my house, but it's probably going to need a lot of work. Do you bring in experts? Do you give estimates? How do you help them understand what the total package would be? If I buy the house, then I also have to invest X.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I have a group of fabulous designers and architects and builders. And depending on the price point, depending on the look, I'll bring in one or two builders to give ideas and estimates. I have numerous designers, depending on what kind of style they're interested in, and we put together a package and try to help people envision what they could look, where they could live.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, it really makes you a little bit more, I know in your bio it talks about being a concierge, but it makes you a little bit more of a concierge advisor to people. You're not just there for the house. You're helping people with the whole big picture.
And that's what's fun for me. I
Yeah.
mean, just to sell a house is great. Of course it is. But I like being able to make sure that they're happy and their family's happy. And when their mother-in-law wants to move, or when their mother-in-law needs to go into assisted living, I'll help with that. Or somebody needs a root canal.
Yeah.
They'll call me like 10 years later and say, oh my God, I need a root canal. Where do I go? So I like to do, I like to have a fun time with my clients. I have some buyers. My Tucson buyers came to Thanksgiving dinner the other
Nice.
day because it was fun and we've been spending a lot of time together. So why not? I would say 95% of my clients become really close friends.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
So
So,
nice.
yeah.
So how do you feel like sort of your perspective in real estate fits into the Russ Lyon brand? Like what it feels like it's very on brand.
I feel like I fit into Russ Lyon really well. And I think Russ Lyon fits me very well. It's a well-known company which has great brand recognition, and I like that. I don't advertise. You'll never see my face on a billboard or on the back of a shopping
Yeah.
cart. I have social media posts and things, which are fun, and I do for fun myself. But I like the brand with Russ Lyon and Sotheby's because we fit together really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So question for you. So here it is December and we're moving into 2026. Some people are really focused on the holidays, probably telling you, hey, after the first of the year, I'm going to buy a house. Are you starting to see clients say that? And what are you helping them to imagine for the new year?
Well, I see a lot of clients continually looking for homes. It's not, I had somebody today saying they wanted to start look today. My clients called last week and they want to start looking now. Nobody's really waiting. I have had a few phone calls from New York City, and those people are interested in moving to Arizona, and happy to help. Some friends from Greenwich. We're going to move to Arizona in a few years, but they're going to move that. They're going to move that date up and make it next year instead. So a lot of people are just, they're not really necessarily waiting until the first of the year. They're just ready when they're ready.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Ready when they're ready. And are you, what do you think is going to be kind of the market as we look into the new year? Like what's your biggest hopes and dreams for real estate in 2026?
I hope all my listings sell within 30 days.
Yes, 100%.
That would be good.
Yeah, 100%. And what is your, when you think about how you're going to work with your clients, what do you want to be to your clients in the new year?
I want to be somebody they can trust. I'd like to have people realize that I'm always there for them, that I will never let them buy anything that I can't resell for them. I always give people what I call the 5-year plan. Where do you envision yourself in 5 years? Here or not? And I'd like people to understand that, a home in Arizona is a commitment. Every home is a commitment. And it's an investment, and it could be the largest investment that they ever make. And I'm responsible for it. And I feel the responsibility. I like doing what I do. I feel the responsibility, and I want everybody to be happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good. Well, thank you for being on the pod. Happy holidays to you.
Very fun. Thank you for inviting me, and happy holidays to you as well.
Thanks for joining me today. I appreciated you spending time with us. And if you'd like to stay in touch, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast and hit the bell so that you're alerted to never miss an episode. And if you'd like to be part of our Iconic Estates newsletter, in the show notes, you'll find the link where you can subscribe to Iconic Estates, or you can go to iconiclife.com. I'd sure appreciate it if you'd take a moment to rate and review this podcast and let us know what you think. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Renee Dee. See you next time.